The Run Lift Mom podcast is brought to you by my efforts as a Zaya Active independent representative and partners Hello Woofy for social media, Red H Nutrition, and Audible. Audible is the newest of this lineup, and if you want to try Audible free, all you've got to do is visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom. Welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast, where we're talking about running, lifting, and momming, not necessarily in that order. We are going to be all up in the momming category today because I've got Aida Algarin of Aida Algarin Birth Services. You guys, this is a full-service doula agency here in North Carolina, but she is gold standard no matter where you live. Aida is a birth and postpartum doula, sibling care doula, childbirth educator, infant feeding specialist, and placenta encapsulator. You guys, we talk about the importance of support. We talk about mom's well-being and your postpartum recovery plan. If you are expecting baby, I know you have gone there in your head about what is going to happen during the labor as well as the delivery of your child. You might even have a birth plan. What about your recovery? Aida is going to walk us through the considerations that we should have and also how to get creative in this very, very interesting time of the pandemic. Your recovery is going to look different than maybe your girlfriends did 5 years ago. So without further ado, here's my friend Aida, doula, birth, recovery, gold standard. All right, welcome to the Run Lift Mom podcast, Aida Algarin. I am jazzed to have you here to talk about something we don't often think of, and that's what happens after baby.
Right. Well, thank you for having me.
All right, I want to get started though because you came to being a doula and actually having your own agency kind of in an untraditional way. Talk to me about your path to becoming a doula.
Well, yeah, most people that learn about my background are pretty surprised and need a little help connecting the dots of how I landed into birth work and postpartum support. My background, I actually went to business school and I majored in computer information systems. I worked early career in insurance world, building out large, complicated e-commerce projects. So definitely nothing in terms of, supporting women in birth and postpartum. But what happened was I met someone, and that's my current husband. And he was here in Fort Bragg, retired soldier, 20 years in the military here. Never thought I'd end up in the South. I'm a Northern girl. And basically, I found myself here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, married and bonus mom to two beautiful kiddos. So I kept my job for a while. I was about 25% of my time flying around the country, running projects from my home. But with teenagers and pets at home, working from home can be a little challenging and socially isolating. And so I kind of made a switch when I was pregnant with my now 5-year-old, and it was a high-risk pregnancy. I decided that, let's take a break. I don't need to work right now. I need to focus on family, and that's what I did. Now, the start of my parenting journey was a little challenging. I had a high-risk pregnancy, had a lot of issues breastfeeding. That's something that was important to me for many reasons of my own. And so that's kind of where I found myself, looking for support. And I found it in my first mommy group.
Wow.
It was the Breastfeeding Social of Fayetteville. It's now an online Facebook support group, over 1,200 moms in it. It was about 20 moms when we started it. And not only did I find my mommy group and, that mommy tribe that helped me those first couple years, but it kind of brought me into breastfeeding support, which is also a gateway into birth support. So I met doulas for the first time. My doula friend said, "Have you ever thought about becoming a doula?" Not really. But you know what? As someone who's a builder of business and someone who loves to just pour myself out into other people and to support them, and then really understanding the military community that we're a part of. My husband still works on Bragg. We're still very involved. with the military community, and will always be a part of it, really. That's kind of where I said, you know what, maybe it's time for me to get back to work, but not necessarily the corporate kind of environment that I was used to. And that's how I decided to train for, and later, train not just for birth support, but all the modalities of doula support. And very quickly, the business mindset set in. And I said, you know what, it doesn't have to just be me. Let me also go and create some jobs for other doulas. And
I love this.
Yeah, very quickly I realized, mom of young kids, the on-call life is challenging. But you know what? If I have some great backup support of other women who can do this and really kick butt in doing it, they're just naturally talented in working with people, we can have something really good happening here. And so that's where the agency model was born. And it's
Now, I bet there's someone listening. That's like, doula? What's a doula? Do you mind defining what it is that you and the great women that you work with do?
Yeah. Well, usually, I have to kind of back up a little bit to kind of set the foundation. What is it, a doula? And what is it not even? Some of us may have some preconceived notions if you've ever heard the word. Well, first of all, doula is a non-medical support person. That person, a doula, actually the word originates in Greek, a woman's servant. This is a woman that was really dedicated in helping someone throughout pregnancy and childbirth specifically, and in the newborn infant care. And so this is a person that poured themselves out and served to be able to help that woman in her pregnancy journey and postpartum healing. In many cultures, that's filled by family, in many cultures, like where I'm from, and, my mother's from Turkey, some of the Eastern cultures, you really don't do anything for 40 days after you're born. You heal. You are the most important center of, attention, and the support surrounds you. And they also help with the baby, but they're really focused on you. In the Western culture, we're not like that. We're expecting women to be back at work at 6 weeks or just to pick up and go. And then certainly if you're in a military town, there's deployments. You might be doing this on your own. So what doulas do, I'm going to talk about birth doulas, right? And then there's also postpartum side, which we do both. And it's very different. They're both non-medical support people. The birth doula is there really throughout your pregnancy and birth journey up until, kind of right after postpartum, helping you with that quick transition. Now, congratulations. The birth is baby's here. And we've helped you along the way, providing information that's evidence-based. We're not making stuff up, right? Or just slapping on essential oils, not knowing what we're doing and stuff. We're really making sure it's evidence-based because that matters. Our clients want to rely on us as expert guides.
So it's not medical personnel, but you guys aren't doing any witchy woo. I mean, it's science-based.
Right. We don't catch babies. We're not midwives, right? Midwives are the ones that you think about. Most often we get confused. Oh, great. So you guys deliver babies. No, actually the moms deliver them. We're holding their hands or, right there, providing the comfort measures and physical, counter pressure to help them get through those contractions, to help them face their fears in childbirth and labor, to pour out, confidence in them, find that inner strength. But so the postpartum world is different though, right? Because most of my postpartum doulas, a lot of them are not birth doulas. They're not there for their birth. And I can certainly go into that a little bit more as well.
Yeah, today we're, of course, going to focus on that recovery plan. Right. So I want you to fill in some blanks as we discuss that on how a doula might assist.
Sure.
Before we roll into that, though, I want to go back to something that you said in your personal story, and that was, hey, I found my tribe in this support group. Now, yours ended up being your future professional peers. But before we kick off talking about that recovery plan, can you just speak to the importance of support for new mothers?
Listen, I mean, especially where we live today, some of us are having babies a little older, right? Some are having younger, and that's fine too. We're certainly a lot younger in the South. Up north, we're holding out older. A lot of us are perhaps sometimes prioritizing career first. And so by the time that we decide we're settling down or perhaps wherever the military, in some instances, and in the families that I support heavily, wherever they've decided to send your family, which is, not close to your extended family, a lot of us are finding ourselves, a little bit, that little identity crisis of, okay, I'm going to have a kid and I don't know what to do. I'm all by myself. Some of my friends might not even be here by the time they might move on, right? In some of the more transient communities like we're in. And so what happens is people feel very alone. I felt that. I felt very alone, at a loss, caught between different worlds. My husband tried fixing me, right? Mr. Fix It. Many of them try to. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I needed women that could relate, just be in the battle with me, right? And it wasn't always bad days. There were great days. So celebrating the victories too. But just having someone, just that looking in each other's eyes and saying, I get it. I get it. You lose it every now and then, right?
Yeah.
That you just find yourself crying in the bathroom maybe because it's just a hard day and you're hiding from your toddlers who are constantly shadowing you. I get it that you didn't necessarily have the birth you wanted. I get it that, it's just tough right now, right? Things may be looking great on the outside, but sometimes how we perceive things, we just need someone to be able to walk with in this journey. And that's what support is about, whether it's peer support, professional support, or certainly family if we have the privilege of living with them and that it's helpful, those relationships. So.
Absolutely. I'm going to link in the show notes, guys. You're either going to click details or swipe up. I'm going to link a couple of conversations from this podcast. One specifically I'm thinking of, it was a postpartum depression episode. And you'll hear a clinician at the table and you'll hear Nina Molosky, who shared her personal story. And she said that when her Facebook social media memories come up now, it's so funny to her because they look like everything was perfect and she knows what was going on. So I wanted you to touch on the support that we need from other women. But now let's kind of venture in and talk about what a postpartum recovery plan is. And then, of course, where appropriate, how maybe a postpartum doula could help with some of those things. Now, I know for me, I had a birth plan. And I laugh as I say this because I had a birth plan. Oh, you guys, I had it bullet pointed out. I knew everything that was going to happen. And first of all, we left it in the car. And guess what? That was fine because nothing on that sheet happened.
Nothing happened, right?
A postpartum recovery, though, even though we don't know what's going to happen in the delivery, talk to us about some of those controllable aspects or just some of those things that we might think about managing.
Right. Well, first of all, even the birth plan, let me just tell you, I don't like the name birth plan. It insinuates that we have full control. Babies and bodies have a mind of their own. And that happens after birth too, right? We can do everything, quote unquote, right and check off all the boxes. And I still have clients that had a beautiful birth in my eyes, right? And in the eyes of those and the video recording, everything, the video shows that the pictures are beautiful, and yet they feel like there's something that they're grieving, something, it just, the help that they need in processing what happened and even just that transition. And of course, with the hormones, there's a lot that we feel. And so I prefer birth preferences. We do call it a birth plan, but it's birth preferences. And here's what postpartum too. It doesn't change, right? We can't have full control when things happen if breastfeeding is not as simple, right? If, health-wise, things are happening with baby, and now you're realizing that you need more help. If you have multiples, Susie, I know you can relate to this one. And you're like, I know people told me it was going to be crazy, but oh goodness.
I love that language difference. Sometimes, guys, language makes all the difference. We talk often on this show about it's not time management, it's priority management. That language makes the difference. And here, you guys, I know this episode said recovery plan, and that's because I want people to find it. But I'm hearing you loud and clear, Aida. It's preferences.
And it is planning, though. There are things that you can plan in advance. And so it's not that you don't have control. I think it's important that you feel empowered and that you feel prepared. And if things don't go right, according to what you want, that you are already prepared with knowing where to turn. So when we start talking about postpartum recovery plan, my postpartum doula is that, with our clients, even what we do is we talk in advance of baby being here as much as possible. So what's your plan, right after birth? What are you bringing to the hospital to make things easier for you for that initial first 24 to 72 hours? Are you planning a cesarean, or perhaps need to prepare for one if you're high risk? Not that we want to put that in your mind, right? We want you to have, we want you to try your best to have the kind of experience you want, but sometimes things happen, life happens. And there's going to be a grieving process that we might need to hold your hand through afterwards and process later. But immediately, there's a baby now, right? Baby needs a feed. You're feeling everything, after postpartum. What I always say is whatever they give you at the hospital, ask for more. Bring it home with you. All the stuff, the, perennial pads and perennial spray and, the mesh panties or granny panties, all, the sexy panties, I say, the ones that you're not going to miss those, but you're going to love them because they're a little bit more comfortable, right?
I know somebody is listening and laughing their head off and probably got 10 extra pairs. They're awesome.
Listen, I gave birth at Womack. I was asking for more of the Epifoam spray. Give me it all. I was walking out looking like I was taking out the trash. I said, I'm not shy. They will provide this, these resources to you. But what about at home? Mm-hmm. When you come back home, do you have the people, right? We're in a COVID world right now, so it's a little challenging, right? Family is not, they're not necessarily flying in right now. You want to perhaps take some precautions, maybe make sure that whoever you bring into the home, obviously, is taking the precautions for your family. This is your plan. This is your family. This is your home. Whatever is safe to you, that's what's priority. But really, if you're bringing anybody into the home, are they going to respect your wishes in parenting, right? You don't want somebody that's going to, if you're trying to breastfeed, just kind of start feeding a baby a bottle on you. Or if you're trying, to go for, bottle feeding and you're not wanting to breastfeed, do you have a plan in place and making sure you have the support that, how do I dry up my milk so that I'm not developing any type of mastitis or the discomfort that happens when your milk transitions or comes in, right? 3 to 5 days after birth. It comes in, guys, whether or not you're planning on breastfeeding for the most part. So be aware, right? So have a plan for that. What do you do? Usually that's when we get phone calls. I'm in pain. I want to breastfeed, but what's going on here? And so explaining the process, what's happening to your body? How can you alleviate the pain? Or I don't want to breastfeed. How can I dry up quickly? Because this is painful. So we help provide those tips like cold cabbage leaves. They really work great on the boobs when you want to, that cold compress, and also what's in them that helps you dry up quickly. So these tips, right? It
occurs to me that most women don't go there in their, they don't go beyond baby coming.
Well, you don't know what you don't know, right? And even when we do know and we go through it, the kids change again. And now we have to readjust, right, to the next phase. But that's where having support, of the people around you, making sure that everyday menial tasks like laundry, do you have a plan for it? Maybe you just let it pile up a little bit more. That's okay. Or maybe that's if you have a postpartum doula or someone else coming in, that's where you can be like, can you help me out? Just lighten the load a bit. That's where meal planning, right? Meal preps. We have freezer meal recipes all over the internet. Instant pots, right? Pressure cookers. That's a whole world of resources out there that can just help lighten the load. And so perhaps we underestimate how important it is to maybe try to get these things out of the way before baby gets here. Because once baby's here, you're tired, you're not sleeping. Even the best babies that sleep, you're still tired. Right. You're healing physically. Are you really resting? Are you hydrating? Is someone reminding you to drink your water? Right? You just baked a baby, but now you're healing. So your body still requires all of that fuel. Do you have a proper nutritious diet? Are you still taking your prenatals? Still take them, So all of these things, it sounds so trivial, but when you're in the moment and you're just exhausted and our fuel tank is empty, that's where that's where having a plan to make sure that self-care, right? Or others caring for us when we are just not really with it at times in that first moments of recovery, that's where it's so important. There's so many templates for postpartum recovery plans on the internet too. Those are great. You don't have to plan for everything. I think the most important thing, Susie, is knowing where to turn to when things don't go right, right? And sometimes you have to listen to your gut, listen to your baby, listen to your body. And sometimes if you're the spouse or partner, if you see something that seems off, listen to your gut and help your partner get some help. So some examples: lactation support, getting a good IBCLC if you're looking to breastfeed and you know something's a little off. It should not be super painful, right? Discomfort in the beginning, but don't wait. Don't get the advice from people saying it always hurts or don't worry or,
Can I ask you to speak directly? Yeah. I want you to go through these considerations, but it occurs to me that at the time of this recording, we are living in a COVID world. And it occurs to me that maybe moms who don't want to burden others will have a hard time knowing what they can ask for help for, or yikes, this is so painful when I nurse, but I don't want to risk anybody by going to, my doctor or saying something. Do you have any advice for folks who might be a little bit scared because it's COVID right now?
Listen, there's actually, there is a little silver lining with COVID here, okay? Bear with me as I say this because it's a little hard to find a little hope at times, right?
Right.
But listen, we are moving towards telehealth services and many of the service-related medical and non-medical industries, in terms of lactation support. Although it's always better, right? Ideal, in an ideal world that we're just not in right now. It's great to have that one-on-one in person. You can still do this telehealth. Maternal mental health counselors, you don't have to go into the office. My office is located, we actually are separate but related. We work well together with the other business, Latch Breastfeeding and Postpartum Wellness Center. There's an IBCLC here. There's a maternal mental health counselor here. They're doing telehealth appointments and a combination of in-person with social distancing, with hospital-grade sanitation, and all of those things, of course, that we're doing with masks and so on. So even the doctors are doing telehealth, and they're very stringent as to when it's really, what they can do online versus coming on in. And so there are precautions being, taking place. And I think all of us providers and service providers like myself as a doula, I've been doing virtual support for births. I've been doing virtual childbirth education, virtual newborn care classes, which touch upon helping someone prepare on how to care for your baby. Especially
I love this.
I don't know. The hospitals aren't offering them right now. There's a lot we can still do. And here's where social media comes in too, right? So of course, we want to watch out how much we consume social media right now with all the fear mongering and just, if you're trying to stay positive and you're already perhaps facing some stressors, let's not add more, right? The negativity that can be out there. But the positive part of social media is that there's mother-to-mother support groups. I run that, Breastfeeding Social Available. It's the largest breastfeeding support group. There are parenting support groups. Postpartum Support International and their local area groups are out there. If you're feeling like something's off emotionally, mood-wise, let me go out online and get the help. And they connect you with those virtual resources as well, so that you can get, the support that you need. So that's what I think we're moving towards. And it's going to permeate and really be able to kind of, access, mothers are going to have more access right from the comfort of their own bed or living room to these resources, where before it was a little hard. You had to kind of Google and figure out, where do I go for an appointment? Does that make sense? I
love this. Yeah. And you're giving us the exact pep talk that I think the listener needs to hear. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. And listener, remember that your postpartum journey is going to look different than all your girlfriends who had their babies, earlier this decade. It's not going to look the same. Now, you were talking us through considerations, and I want to be able to wrap that up. So you had said, thinking about what feeding looks like, reminding spouses that if something seems off, to keep that dialogue going. What other considerations should we be looking at as we make recovery preferences or planning?
Right. So we touched upon some of the physical aspects of postpartum recovery journey, right? That healing journey. If you feel like something's off, right? For example, even weeks after birth, once we start trying to get back into the bedroom again with our spouses or partners. If, sex should not be painful. Let's just put it that way. A little discomfort in the beginning, because anybody who just had something, human come out of them at this point, anything else coming back up there can be a little bit, you have to get yourself mentally ready at times. But let me tell you, if something's off, if you're still feeling pain, whether it's vaginally or at the incision site, beyond when you should be cleared, pelvic floor health therapy is super important. People don't know about this, right? Incontinence should not be normal, right? And sometimes we don't see that right away. So they're keeping in mind, again, having those resources in your back pocket, seeing the signs, the emotional processing of the birth itself. Maternal mental health, doulas, we help with that. We're in your room. Half the time, I'm not taking care of the baby or anything. I'm sitting down talking to the mom. She's there, whether she's bottle feeding or nursing her baby, and we're just having heart-to-hearts, and she feels like she's not alone, and we're connecting, and she's feeling that emotional support and just talking. I'm listening. I don't have to tell her how to fix everything. Sometimes just being there, assistance with the infant feeding and newborn care, that's where taking those classes in advance. Sometimes maybe here and you're like, I need help. There's newborn care classes. I can literally do this virtually with you, Zoom, with your baby with you, and teach you how to swaddle, right? Teach you how to use the baby carrier to comfort baby. Teach you how to get baby down to sleep, transition and so on after feeding. And then also, I love it. Part of this, we always sometimes forget, or it's a lingering thought, and we can feel guilty after, is how's the rest of your household adjusting, right? So you've got yourself at the center in your physical, emotional healing journey, right? You've got your baby that's taking next precedence. What about the rest? What else hangs off of mom usually? It's the rest of the household, older children, your spouse, pets. Our fur babies, right? They have a hard time adjusting, and really just having a plan in place. And again, there's so many resources online. I know we can't go into all in detail, but how do we help them all? So again, meal prep planning, making sure things are ready. Just grab it out of the freezer, guys. Having pet sitters, or perhaps, just how to be able to introduce baby with pet, how to help pet transition, right? So that they're not super stressed. And all of those things. And so there's so many things, meal trains. When people offer their help, take it. And I realize in a COVID world, we're not just going to have doors wide open, but there's so many things. Drop off at the front doorstep, take your precautions. Kids they can have virtual play dates, right? Yes. We're going to figure out this school thing, right? But socially, they can still do so much virtually as well. Go for walks with your kiddo. When it's time for you to get back up and move, make sure you're cleared. I know, Susie, you know all about the fitness in postpartum, but make sure you pace yourself. Your healing is most important. There's always time to get back in the gym, but start off by doing light stretches. Start off by taking the walks, right? Listen to your body. And then as you're being cleared with your provider, and if you want to proactively even get with a pelvic floor therapist, which is a great idea, especially if fitness and you lead a very active lifestyle, go for it. It's part of a great proactive journey, healing process. Right. But make sure you're taking the time for yourself. And if you overdo it, slow down. Right.
Thank you for just encouraging us to put well-being first. And it occurs to me that you're speaking with women all the time that are in this season of life. So these things that you're bringing up, it's a pep talk for us listeners, because you're seeing the best practices in a really unique time. Listeners, I'm going to put a lot of resources in the show notes to include a conversation with Wendy Powell of Mutu System. I'm going to link it right in the show notes. If you are that exercise enthusiast that Ida was describing, I want you to listen to that show right after you stop this one. Right. So, Ida, thank you very much. I want to see if you will indulge me with some rapid fire before we get off here. And thank you again for the resources as well. I know that listeners appreciate that.
Great.
All right, we're going to do rapid fire unrelated to birth, unrelated to recovery. This is just for fun. Tell me if you're going out for, or staying in, for ice cream or gelato. Which one's it going to be?
Oh, it's going to be ice cream.
And what kind of ice cream?
Oh, it's going to be chocolate, indulgent with whipped creams. And if I feel particularly glittery that day, we're going to have some sprinkles too.
My girl. All right. So listeners of this show know that I'm a fan of pink. Would you prefer hot pink or blush pink?
I think hot pink, go bold. Yeah.
Hey. I love that. One thing that I love to ask folks, if you are gifting a book to someone else, unrelated to birth plans, what book do you like to gift most often?
It's an old school book, and maybe it's a little bit because of my business background, but I love Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a classic leadership book. It's a classic just how to be a good person book and connect with people, emotional intelligence. And I think that can be used by anybody in any kind of background, and very easy to read as well.
Yes. Your corporate showing, but also your care for others is showing when you make that recommendation, truly. Awesome. Aida, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. Listeners, again, we have got a loaded show notes for you. So I'm going to need you to click details or swipe up so you can connect with Aida.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Susie. I just want your listeners to know that they are exactly what their family needs. And so the best version of us is when we take care of ourselves. And I thank you for your podcast and all the resources you're bringing to our communities.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aida, for coming on Run Lift Mom. Listener, if you are expecting a baby, I hope that you will revisit this episode as you create your own postpartum recovery plan. If you're like, hey girl, train's left the station, I'm not having any more kids, I hope you're going to pass this episode on to someone who would be blessed by it. So often we think about exactly what is going to happen in that L&D room at the hospital or even at home. We don't consider the recovery. This is needed, and thank you again, Aida. You guys can click on details or you can swipe up, gonna depend on the player that you're in, to learn more from her. And until I get into your earpiece again, remember, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. That's from 1 Timothy 4:8, and this has been the Run Lift Mom podcast. Hey, Run Lift Mom listeners, you know I'm the mom of 4 kids under age 5, and therefore I am always looking for ways to work smart, not hard. Anchor is the smartest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. First of all, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, but Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so then it can be heard on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole lot more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It is quite literally everything you need all in one place. And y'all, it's free. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You guys, I'm thrilled to announce a new partner on Run Lift Mom, and that is Audible. I've been an Audible member for over 10 years, and my favorite part, hands down, it's the gift of time. I use the free app to take notes as I'm doing my long run and I hear something fantastic, and you are going to love it. If you want to try Audible free, visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom. That's RUNLIFTMOM. Again, for a free trial, visit audibletrial.com/runliftmom. Thank you for listening to the Run Lift Mom podcast. What started as a passion project in February 2019 now has over 60,000 downloads and over 400 listens each day. It is amazing, and I know it is because of you, dear listener. I want to thank you for your ratings, reviews, and subscriptions. All you have to do is take a screenshot of your rating or your subscription. If you've already done it, clearly this is fair game. Take a screenshot and go to newreleasewednesday.com. That's newreleasewednesday.com. That's going to put you in a drawing for a free Zaya Active outfit, top and bottom piece, valued at over $100. Newreleasewednesday.com. Show me where you have rated and subscribed, and I'm going to get you in that drawing. Thank you so much for making this passion project possible.